Hello everybody and welcome to another video. It felt kind of weird that we've had so much FFX on the channel lately and not enough Guild Wars 2 punctuating that space. So I wanted to do a Q&A for today. However, it will be a bit of a shorter one. There's going to be a lot of content out tomorrow. We are in fact a day before the release of Season 2 of The Living World. And I've been busy in the background working on some cool stuff to do with that, which hopefully you guys will enjoy. So definitely lots of Guild Wars 2 stuff tomorrow. But today, at least I've gathered a couple of questions. Let's jump into it. The first one's from Kirka87, who says, "Hey WP, I was looking through your old videos. Guild Wars 2 60 Reasons and Guild Wars 2 WTF No Healer particularly come to mind. Do you still agree with the things you said in these videos? How have your views changed?" You know, that's a really interesting question, and it's funny to look back at videos like that and realise that I've been doing Guild Wars 2 stuff for quite a while now, and opinions really should have changed a fair amount. That said, I also find myself kind of put off watching both of those videos in retrospect, just because clearly things didn't work out exactly how I was originally so enthusiastically saying back then. So for those of you who don't know what these videos are, the GW2 What the Fuck No Healer video was actually, I think it still is, the highest viewed video on my entire channel. Back when I was Let's Playing Guild Wars 1 towards the end of that series, where I was doing like Eye of the North stuff, Guild Wars 2 news was slowly rolling out more and more and more. You know, they were announcing the professions, and I decided to start doing discussion piece videos on Guild Wars 2 using, you know, a lot of their trailer footage that they'd put out. One of the first topics that came up that was really a buzz with when Guild Wars 2 was releasing was the idea of basically that there is no trinity. Now, I didn't know exactly how I felt about the game having no trinity, considering I hadn't really been involved, and I do think there's a lot of perks of having a trinity, but I did have a lot of strong feelings on the way playing a healer felt. I still stand by those strong feelings. That is, at least in the games I have played where there is like a raw healing spec you can play, it tends to be playing the UI rather than anything else engaging. I do think Guild Wars 2 lived up to a lot of what it set out to do in terms of combat, where you're focusing on the environment itself just as much as you're focusing on the UI. There is still a lot of focus on the UI. There really is. Your health, the boons on enemies, buffs on you, debuffs on you, all of that stuff is still UI based, but there is also a lot more environmental stuff, like watching for tells, animations, making sure you know what to dodge roll, ground targeted abilities. So in the scope of that, it seemed very weird to me that Guild Wars 2 could have a healing class which could basically devolve again to pure UI management. By this I mean, like, think about the way you heal in most games, right? You click a nameplate of someone in your party or who's around you, and then you click a skill you want to see, and you see their health go up. And one of the terms I used in that video that generated quite a lot of controversy, I would say, is I used the idea of whack-a-mole. I said that healing was playing whack-a-mole. Now, I do think there are ways to implement healing in an MMO that isn't this really basic click an ally, click a skill, click an ally, click a skill. You could easily have in Guild Wars 2 ground targeted heal abilities. That's not a problem, but from what I had seen of healing, it just wasn't very fun gameplay. And that's the point I was trying to make. One thing I don't think I stressed enough in this video is that I can see why people like to heal. See, the WTF No Healer video is not only the most viewed video on my channel, but it's also probably the most disliked video on my entire channel. And I have no doubt that this discussion and, you know, people sitting on either side of the fence is what ended up making this video so big and eventually linked around a lot and appeared high on search rankings. But basically people watched it and got very angry because they heard me saying healing sucks, and they thought to themselves, hold on, every MMO I've ever played, I love to be a healer. You don't know what you're talking about, you're an idiot. And they wouldn't really listen to what I was trying to establish in terms of like the mechanics of actually doing it. I do think I said in the video, and I still stand by this, I can see why people like to heal. It is cool to be the guy that's keeping everyone else alive, and I do think Guild Wars 2 has a serious deficiency right now in that support doesn't feel that fun, or distinct anyway. Most of the ways you can support your allies, other people can support too, namely like with the downstate system. Yeah, you can res someone up and feel like, yeah, I'm helping, but you're not helping any better than anyone else. Everyone can res at the same pace. So I do think Guild Wars 2 is deficient with that. But a lot of people got very angry on that video, and I sort of regret it a bit. I wish I had phrased my arguments a little differently. And I will say that now, you know, 2 years down the line, I am less enthusiastic about that idea. I do think there's a lot of space to improve support in this game, and healing is a big part of it, and healing is just terrible. I mean, healing other people in Guild Wars 2 is awful. I do think the devs have it in mind to address this. That's why they added this new mechanic recently of you can increase your healing power, but only for people around you instead of yourself, which sort of is more of a traditional healer, right? You stay squishy, but you can heal other people quite a lot. So I think they're slowly working on it, but it's far too slow in my opinion. As for the overall argument of the Trinity, I also think that the Trinity offers an awful lot of value, and I wonder how many devs over there do also question their decision to move away from it. Because, I mean, at its core, the Trinity is just forcing teamwork, right? That's all it's doing, and they're trying to force teamwork in other ways. But I do think that the game, especially in some of the more difficult types of content they can design, may have suffered a little because there is no Trinity. But hey, so, yeah, an interesting video, honestly, and I've not watched it back in full ever, I don't think. Not since, you know, the couple of times I may have when I originally released it. Just because I feel kind of icky about it. And in some ways I wish it wasn't my most viewed video, but there you go. The other one, Guild Wars 2 60 Reasons. This I actually watched myself only a little bit of just recently because I was talking to a friend about something that appeared in there. I'm still very proud of that video. That took an awful lot of effort. For people who don't know what this one is, this was around about the time I released the WTF No Healer video. ArenaNet did a competition where they allowed video makers to submit a 60-second video talking about Guild Wars 2, basically advertising Guild Wars 2. Okay, let's be real here. And the best ones they would pick, and 2 people would even get flown out to Seattle to their studios. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I didn't expect to win, but a lot of the runner-up prizes were pretty good. There were some nice graphics cards for the time, so I thought, you know what, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And my take on it was, I thought quite a novel idea that a lot of people would have come up with, but I was the only one that did it. I was like, okay, there's 60 seconds. My thing, if you spent any time watching my channel, I have a tendency to ramble and spend a long time talking about things. So I was like, how the hell can I talk about everything I want to talk about that's going to be good about Guild Wars 2 in just 60 seconds? So then that was where the idea was born. I was like, okay, how about a different thing every second? And that was a lot of effort that went in that video. It's only 60 seconds, but every single one, like, you know, even just finding the 60 and trying to actually make them convincing. And you'll see there's some iffy reasons in there. But, you know, overall, I'm still proud of what I did and the work that I did on it. For the record, I never won that competition. I never even got a runner-up. I do think that it was genuinely one of the better ones, and a lot of people thought so. It at least generated a lot of buzz in the community when it released. But I also said stuff like, the Mesmer is going to be in Guild Wars 2, and the Mesmer hadn't been announced, so for ArenaNet to say, hey, yeah, this one wins, would be, I don't know, kind of weird. And I put that as a big reason why it didn't do very well. Maybe that's a bit big-headed of me. The reason that I put the Mesmer in there, that's kind of a flimsy reason as well, right? It definitely will seem like that post-launch, but pre-launch, this was one of those old favourite professions. It was my main in Guild Wars 1. Everyone was looking forward to, everyone wanted confirmation that it would be there in the game, and to me it was just one of these very exciting things that I was sure about and I desperately wanted to have in the video, so that's why it ended up there. But absolutely, if you look through Guild Wars 2 60 Reasons, a lot of stuff that I said there, it's not true about the game. It's really not. I don't blame myself for that, though, and I don't think I was really being deceitful to people. Everything I did with that video, I was trying to be honest. It was stuff I was genuinely excited about, and it was all based on pre-release information, you see. It was stuff that the devs told us, and I'm sure the devs themselves weren't trying to be deceitful. This was just what they hoped their game would end up having. And you look at stuff on there, particularly about, you know, I'm sure there's something in there about how content was going to be difficult, that it's just fallen flat in Guild Wars 2. And there's some things that are debatable too. Literally, I just mentioned that I think the idea of having no Trinity is somewhat debatable. One of the reasons in the 60-second video is there is no Trinity in Guild Wars 2, and this is a positive. Is it a complete positive? You know, your opinion should change. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, and as I started by saying, one of the cool things about this for me was realizing that so much time has passed, and I at least have grown somewhat. But yeah, the next question is from Carlin Hosjum88, who says, hey WP, what do you think about legendary armor for specific classes instead of heavy, medium, and light? This was one of my regrets with Guild Wars 2, that I mean, the first game, they always had, okay, Mesmers have Mesmer armor, Ellies have Ellie armor, and you always kind of had that distinct look about you. And Guild Wars 2 obviously has blended them together. We've got heavy, medium, and light, and you can share. You know, you can make your Necro look a lot like an Elementalist. And I guess that's positive in some ways. In others, I feel like we've lost a lot of distinction and a lot of excitement about rolling a new class. You know, I rolled a thief at one point. He happened to be a char thief, so his armor looked pretty distinct anyway. But when I distinctively remember thinking, when I rolled my engineer, that there wasn't that much excitement there, because I was like, oh, I've already seen what a lot of these armors look like. It doesn't help that medium armors doesn't look that great at all. You know, games where they have very distinct armor for each profession, that's another thing in the back of your mind, right? You're like, oh yeah, okay, I make this new character, and I get all this different armor I get to wear, not just weapons that you may have not used before, but all these unique armors, and that was a cool thing that they took away. I get that they took it away for development resources, and would they bring it back for legendary armor? Maybe. I mean, if they did that for legendary armor and it was very difficult, it would add that excitement I was just talking about back into the game, wouldn't it? It would mean, okay, I want to run my NG so I can get to the very end game on my NG, I can get all of this gold for my NG, and then I can wear this awesome engineer armor. That would be cool. I'd like it a lot. And since legendary armor would presumably just be like a one-time thing, you know, maybe for a year, 2 years before they add another one, because of that fact, ArenaNet can't really fall back on the excuse that, oh, we're doing it for dev time, for future armors and stuff. Well, no, it's just one set, so, you know, they spend a lot of time working on that one set, and it just carries for however long in the future. So I think there's good reason that they could do it too. I'm totally on board, basically, with the idea. The next question is from Jonathan Anderson, who says, I was really surprised that on your immersive experience you still had player and enemy names on. One of the first things I'd turn off to make it more immersive. I didn't actually realise this was an option on the immersive combat mode. But yeah, I did think about something very similar. Every single enemy or ally in Guild Wars 2, if you mouse over them, it says their name there. There's certain elements of the UI, right, that just ends up blending into the background. And this is definitely one of them. But there is, every time you target something, you'll see their name, but there's also a mini health bar above their head. And that's really interesting to me. In the first game, it was the exact same, and what I used to do to try and make the game more immersive was when you target someone and you get the nice big chunky health bar with, you know, their boons and conditions and stuff on it, I would turn that off. By turning that off, it forced me as a player, if I wanted to assess the health of the enemy I was fighting, of the boss I was fighting, of the group of enemies that I was fighting, I actually had to look at the enemy. You know, not specifically at the model and see that he's been wounded and he's bleeding and stuff, but at the enemy basically just above his head, and there I would see his health. And it's this idea, again, of drawing your eyes away from the UI and more into Tyria, so that you are having a more immersive experience. You're looking at the world. And I really liked the idea of doing this in Guild Wars 2 also. But I don't think it's viable, because there is no way to get rid of, unless they add it as an option at some point on immersive combat mode, there's no way, as far as I know, to get rid of the big health bar with the boons and conditions on there. And so every time you target something, because say you wanted to use like a tab target ability, unfortunately it's going to throw that on your screen, and it's much more convenient to look at the big one that's not obscured by terrain or whatever. And at the end of the day, the big one tells you more information too. You know, I think we're just kind of stuck right now. I wish ArenaNet would look into that more though, because to me, those little health bars, if it's basically that no players are ever going to want to look at them because they've got a much more convenient one, why are they there? Like, isn't that just clutter? Shouldn't they just get rid of that? And I really think they should either get rid of it or give us an option to get rid of the conventional thing at the top, maybe shift some condies and boons in very, very small notations above the enemy's health, and then maybe we can do that and we can have a more immersive experience. But I couldn't find anything. Not that I looked very hard, but anyway. So the next question is from Ahoyarno, who says, is clipping really an issue to you? I simply don't care. It happens in all games. I found the clipping list in Guild Wars 1 wiki very childish. I'd take capes with clipping over no capes. I think you're asking this because maybe last time we did a Q&A we were talking about capes. I agree with you completely. I don't care about clipping. Like, there's a lot of people I think that, and it's probably because I'm not one of these players. There are some players that go for very distinguished, cool looks. You know, they basically play Barbie with their character in a video game, and that's totally fine. I'm not questioning that. There's some people that like to do that. You know, they pick out their really nice sword. They don't care about the big flashy stuff necessarily. They just want their character to look cool. And the second they see a tiny bit of clipping, it drives them through the roof and they just can't wear the set. I've met and known a lot of people like that, and I know it's really prevalent. Me, personally, I don't care at all about that kind of stuff. I've explained it before on the channel. All I want to do is stand out in whatever way I can. So clipping, to me, it doesn't bother me. And yes, to me, therefore, with their discussions over why aren't there capes in Guild Wars 2, it's one I find hard to swallow, especially given what you said in sort of a roundabout way. There's already loads of clipping. Jeez, like, the game is notorious for having clipping. I don't know necessarily compared to other MMOs, but Guild Wars 2 has a lot of clipping already. You just put the capes in there. All of that said, I can understand, you know, working onto the philosophy, don't do it unless you're going to do it right, and it depends how extensive the clipping is. I can say, oh, I don't really care if my my trouser clips slightly into my top, but that's different to me being annoyed that my molten backpack clips horribly with the Orion light armor, you know, which has this huge inflated back thing and basically hides my entire back piece. You know, they are different, and the worse the clipping, the worse my opinion's going to be, and that's true for everyone, but a little bit I don't mind too much. I actually read an article a while ago. I shouldn't mention this because I can't give you guys the link, but I read an article from someone who was basically saying, look, here's the issues with implementing capes and clipping and why it's all so hard, and it was actually a really interesting read that was favoured more towards ArenaNet stance, that they will take a long time to develop it because of complications or whatever. But yeah, I don't care very much as a player. The final question was the most upvoted question that I saw on the last video, which was from Lumen Did a Cure, who says, your ranger looks completely stoned, especially with the pink eyes. Intentional. No, it wasn't. I had so many people ask me this. What is up, guys? No, he wasn't meant to look stoned. I was trying to make him look like an inquest. The Asura's name, okay, is Councillor Yak. You can type that in on the wiki. You'll see that this is a member of the Inquest who is collaborating with the Arcane Council. You as a player can go to the Arcane Council in Ratasum and speak to him. He even has lore about Scarlet. And none of you fools that play Guild Wars 2 knew to nab his name. So my idea was, since I was going to be making an Asura, I thought, hey, why don't I make a man, and why not, you know, try and sort of RP it as a bit of an Inquest. I figure I can wear some of the cultural armor and maybe make him look a bit more Inquesty. But that's the idea. He was supposed to look old, scarred, he's supposed to look grumpy, you know, a member of the Inquest. And then I wanted unique eyes as well, specifically from the Total Makeover kit. So I ended up with the ones that made him look baked. And I didn't even realise it until everyone started pointing it out. And that's the story. Anyway, there you go, guys. That's the Q&A for today. Thanks very much for watching. Plenty of cool stuff coming out tomorrow, and the start of Season 2 should be a good one. I hope you have a great evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.